Welcome to all new Look Back in Amber, from exclusive interviews to interesting inside insights. Since 2010, we've been the best place to be for all things audio for us, Newport County fans. Coming up in the next 45 minutes, I'm back in the chair. I'm Lamsey, and I've got all the big questions to wrap up the 2022-2023 season.
I'm Stephen, I've got the month-by-month lowdown, and I want to know your views on the Cochran era.
I'm Luke, I'll be taking you through the team position by position. I also want to know your thoughts on what happens next for our great football club.
Never miss out. Subscribe to the podcast for new episodes, including summer special editions and all past episodes.
Can we just say how mighty fine it is to have you back in the chair?
Even though I've started off by pressing the wrong buttons in the wrong order.
And I think I can speak for the residents of Salou, where they can say that their dance floors are once again a safe place to be. The demon of the dance floor, he's back in Newport, so you can go and enjoy yourselves on the dance floor of Salou from now on.
I'm glad not you're wearing your Welsh top, because it would have blended into it quite nicely, yeah. If you need to know what we're talking about, check out the last episode of Back in Amber, where I wasn't available because I was too busy boogieing on the dance floor at age 49. I thought it was a good effort.
You call it boogieing.
Well,
I mean, yeah.
there was more wobbling. I thought it was bouncing, but I was wobbling.
Yeah.
Did you have a good time, though?
I did, but this won't make the podcast. It probably will, actually. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, it was lovely to get away. But it's just nice being in some heat and warmth and sun and stuff like that. So yeah, really, really enjoyed it.
So you've been in Newport then?
Yeah.
Yeah, just last
it's nice today.
He's a bit like Crowded House. Everywhere he goes, he brings the weather with him.
People always say, "Oh, bring the weather back with you." So I did.
He did.
Yeah. So I had my go at it. Right, let's get into business. So it all began not on Saturday, not on Tuesday, but back in those days of August. Or was it July?
It was
last July, wasn't it? Last weekend of July, because of the World Cup, wasn't it? So it started in July of 2022. We had a relatively new manager. We were not doing quite well, but we were looking forward to a new season and getting excited about transfers. So let's bring ourselves up to date a little bit then. So first of all, let's go on pre-season predictions.
Yes, we did a pre-season look forward in Amber, I'd probably say, rather than looking back in Amber. And unfortunately, I wasn't here due to a few different reasons, but you guys made some predictions, and so did the wider sports team via Facebook. So we'll start off with the guru of football predictions, as Stephen and the guys known as Super Six League, Daniel Fraser, who thought, and I think he's the closest so far, or he's the closest in our group to getting the prediction right. He said we finish 11th this season, and Omar Bogle will score 15 goals. He's 4 places off in the prediction, and 4 goals off Omar Bogle.
Yeah, not bad going. No wonder he keeps on winning Super Six. Yeah.
He's just good, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, he is a football statistician, so
yes,
it's part of his job. So if he doesn't know what he's doing, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Fantastic football photographer Chris Lucas went a little bit more bold than Dan. He said we'd be challenging for the playoffs and sustain the push. Obviously, last season we were going for the playoffs, and then we kind of fell off towards the end of the season. If you thought they were a little bit optimistic, wait till what the guy said in the studio here. So we'll start off with Stephen, who's probably the most pessimistic of the three of us, in thinking we finish 3rd this season.
Yeah, that aged well, didn't it?
Do you remember why you thought 3rd?
I was just full of optimism. Beginning of the season, I'll be the same again in August.
And I think that was just after a few weeks after we went to the annual AGM.
Yeah. And
the way that Gavin Foxall and Darren Kelly spoke about the things that were going on over the club over the summer.
Well, as I did say on that pre-season review, that I was full of optimism, and it'll probably win over the course of the season, and I proved myself right there.
Now, both me and Lamsey also had the same prediction. We thought we'd do a little bit better than Stephen's prediction of 3rd. 2nd.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Well, yeah, I kind of thought with the new manager, like I said in the introduction, even though we weren't doing quite well and we didn't know it was going to carry on this season, but at that point obviously you wouldn't. I just thought there's enough there. The signings seemed to be good, the vibes seemed to be good. We had James and Gavin in the studio this time last year. Sorry for nicked somebody's line there.
Yeah.
I think I've just done a Luke to what Luke does to you, Stephen, normally. I think I've nicked Luke's line.
Okay.
But yeah, and it was all good. It just felt like a winning backroom combination.
Yeah.
So board and management hand in hand together. So that's why I went second. I just thought this is the perfect combination, and obviously leading into the 10 years in the league as well, everything was to play for.
Yeah, and for me as well, I think I agree with what Stephen said. Obviously, we went to the AGM and everyone there, from James Roby all the way through to even Joe Crocker talking about the trust, the commercial side in Newport County, Kelly Anderson talking about the safeguarding side. Everyone just had glowing things to say about what had been going on over the summer. We heard Gavin Foxall say for the third or fourth successive year in a row, the club made a profit. You had Darren Kelly speaking glowingly about this database system that he had implemented at the club, which had thrown up some players that he said would fit into the James Roby system really well. Those players some of the players that we've signed, look at the likes of Omar Bogle, Declan Drysdale, even Aaron Wildick, who's come good towards the end of the season. They've been success stories, but yeah, I think that AGM, and yes, you go into a season, every football fan up and down the country, even before the ball is kicked, everyone feels like they're on equal playing field. It's an equal service. Everyone's optimistic, and everyone has the right to be optimistic. So
I like we said that there. You've actually done a really good pun with it, knowing we even had a brilliant playing surface. So we had a more than equal playing surface.
Yeah,
it just all felt good, didn't it?
It did, and I don't know where it went wrong.
I'll tell you what happened. Football happened.
Yeah.
So that's right. So let's see what happened month by month. Stephen, what have you got for us?
Yeah, okay. So the season began early last year. Began at the end of July. So we began with a 1-1 draw at Sutton, which was the fourth time in the last 10 seasons that Newport had drawn their opening day fixture. The first home game of the season was a big one. Mike Flynn and his Walsall team came to town.
That was Ramsey's fixture to look out for, I do believe.
Yeah, and so we lost 1-0 through a Dimitru own goal. Had a good game against Luton in the Cup. Yeah, the next two league games were defeats, and then went on a 4-match unbeaten run in all competitions, including beating Portsmouth at home in the EFL Cup and Exeter in the EFL Trophy even. So the club ended the month in 16th position, 1-2, drawn 1, lost 3, points 7. So any thoughts on August, Luke?
The Portsmouth game is where my immediate focus turns to. What's more to say about that game? 3-2. Stephen had one of his more common moments of genius on commentary
James
with James Waite time in the 67th minute, or was it the 77th?
He came on, didn't he, in one game, and I said that's his time, and he went and scored. Yeah, probably my best moment of the season. I should have hung up the microphone after that.
But that game for me, it might have even been one of our best performances of the season. 1-0 down, then I think it was 1-1, 2-1, 2-2. Then James Waite came on to score the winner. The crowd were up for it. It was a really boisterous Rodney Parade, a fortress, it felt like, of that game. And then the wheels fell off. Yeah, as I'm sure you come on to.
Yeah, in August, I was just pleased to get rid of Flinny's Walsall.
Yeah, we got it out the way first game.
That's the other one. First game.
You didn't want that creeping over us too long into the season, so I was just glad to get it out of the way.
At the end of the day, it's just another team and another game.
It is, but it isn't, is it?
It was big, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
He did get a fantastic response and reception, which will be interesting to see how he does next season with Swindon. We know Newport and Swindon have a bit of a rivalry there, so it'll be interesting to see how he does.
Moving on, so in September, the team lost their first 3 league matches, 2 at home against Grimsby and Barrow. There was a defeat to Forest Green in the EFL Trophy. Ended the month with a draw against Carlisle, and at the end of September, the club were in 18th position, drew 1, lost 3, 4-1 against 6, only took 1 point. So I'm going to move quickly on
probably for the best
to October, because not a lot happened this month, to be honest. It was a quiet month. So we began with an away win at Leyton Orient, thanks to goals from Will Evans and Omar Bogle. Will Evans got his first professional goal in that game. And then came 2 league matches against Swindon and Rochdale, which they lost to both of them, which in the end, on the 10th of October, it was announced that James Roby would part ways with the club, unfortunately. So then Sporting Director Darren Kelly came in for a couple of games. And then on the 20th of October, Graham Coughlin was announced as the new manager on a 2.5-year deal. The club were 19th when he took over. A day later, he appointed his former assistant, Joe Dunn, from Bristol Rovers and Mansfield. And their first game was against Dunn's former club, Colchester, which they won 1-0. And then, so they ended the month in 18th place, 1-2, drawn 2, lost 3, 4-5 against 6, points 8. Luke, what was your thoughts on that month?
That month, it was a difficult month. We know what James Roby's like. We've had him in here numerous times, obviously with me personally as well, going to the press conference after the games. I feel like I know him a little bit better from going to those press conferences and having that interaction. So it was difficult to see him go. I think he didn't lose the dressing room, and someone say, I don't know whether Michael Flynn lost the dressing room towards the end. That might be a bit controversial, or whether it was just one game too many and his voice didn't have as much impact as it had when he first came in. But Coughlin's come in, and I'm sure you'll come on to, he's been a revelation. First day we came in, me and you went to his press conference. I think from there he set out his ambition for the club. He said about his mantra of crawl, walk, run, which if we get him in over the summer, it'll be really nice to ask him about that.
I think we should get a YouTube video of him crawling, walking and running, because we've said it so many times on this show.
Yeah.
So,
well, like the evolution of man, but it'll be Coughlin.
Of Newport, of Coughlin's Newport County. Yeah, I don't know. I was really upset because, like you said, James came in here with Gavin. I was upset for James. Obviously, a man loses his job. It's not great. We were also hopeful, weren't we? And there was a moment, I think there was a game that season where we thought, he's got it, he's turning it round.
Tramio, and we won
and you could just see like the colour back into to Gavin's face, and just it almost validified the hope that Gavin had when he employed him. Yeah. And then suddenly, they've had to make that really, really, really difficult decision.
Yeah, it was unfortunate for him to go, but I think it was inevitable because, especially after those 2 home defeats, the atmosphere was toxic at Rodney Parade.
Yeah,
we even seen that ourselves. It was just not a nice place to be at Rodney Parade. Full time whistle went. It was really loud boos and.
Can we forget October?
Yeah, let's move on. Yeah, so we began the month with a first round FA Cup tie against Colchester again, which we won 2-0. Highlight of that for me was an Aaron Lewis goal. We followed that by a trip to Premier League, Leicester City in the EFL Cup, third round.
Which Little Newport City Radio were at, I believe.
We were. We'll come on to that in a minute. After a gallant performance, Leicester won 3-0. And then they also, in the FA Cup, faced Derby County at home. Second round, took the lead through Priestley Farkson, but the visitors in the end won 2-1. Newport ended the month 18th in League 2, 1-1, lost 1, 4-3 against 2, 3 points. So, so you two were at that Leicester game. I'm assuming that's probably your highlight of November.
I think it's probably, in terms of the football season, probably my highlight is the full season. There's been it's been a difficult season off the pitch, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
On the pitch as well, it's been difficult. As Stephen just said, towards the beginning, you could argue we were sleepwalking into relegation.
Yeah. Well, we never recovered from it, did we? But we'll probably mention that a little bit later. I know, that Leicester game, what an amazing welcome from Leicester Football Club. They made us feel really, really welcome. It was just lovely seeing that there's a board where it tells you where you have to go in the press area. And, the press area's got screens, so you can watch the screens, even though it was backwards, wasn't it? So if you're watching it, you're watching the game left to right, but the screens were backwards, so it's like it was kind of an upside down weird way to watch it. So I ended up not watching on the screen.
That's the way that if you watch, for example, as we say on Wednesday, Monday just gone, Leicester played Liverpool in the Premier League at the King Power, and that's how the TV gantry is set up.
Yeah.
So that footage we had would be in the same footage that's broadcast at home into people's homes.
With it, so it has to be done that way. And it's just sat there, and there's signboard which tell you where to go. And there's Radio 5 Live, there's the Daily Mirror, there's the Telegraph, the paper that we won't mention, and other broadcasters, TalkSport, and Newport City Radio. And I'm just there, this is just lovely. And this lovely lady that worked there, she said, she goes, So you've been looking at that for a little while. I told her this story. I just said we're just Newport City Radio. We're an internet radio station in Newport. We've been going almost 15 years, and it's just lovely to be here. And she went, do you want it? Do you want that piece of paper? And we got it. We I need to get it framed, but we got it. So yeah, and personally, what an absolute high. And I just can't thank the club, Newport County, enough, but certainly Leicester for their hospitality. What an amazing couple of hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Personally, that's one of the highlights. But the other one, as you mentioned, Derby County in the FA Cup, live on TV, broadcast around the UK, and in that game, we didn't look. For about 65, 70 minutes, we didn't look. You can tell who was the League One side and who was the League Two side. I think we were really good that day. Priestley Farquharson stood out to me. He shouldn't have been on the losing side that game. He dealt with David McGoldrick, who a season or two before was scoring 10 goals in the Premier League. And he dealt with him, and he didn't have a sniff in the game until one of the last kicks of the game to win Derby the game. So, for me, November, I will remember, yes, obviously the Leicester game, but also that Derby game, because there were so many positives to take from that game. And I think that was one of the first signs that we could see the progression of Graham Coughlin and Coughlin ball.
Yeah, I think for me, like obviously the cup, but I think, Priestley Farquharson came into the team, got 3 goals, and we started to see a settled side as well with Coughlin's with his team selection.
We know his reward system as well. The shirt is yours until you lose it, and I think when under James Roby, it's always difficult to start the season where you have players who you might not know your first 11 until say October. But I think with his reward system and the way he went about it, I think that quickly, because I think when he came in the first 4 or 5 games, he was unchanged. The Colchester and then the others after that. So yeah, I think the reward system has been another thing as a positive this season, and maybe a positive going to the next season.
Yeah, so moving on to December. Yeah, started the month with an away winner Crewe, so goals from Cameron Norman, and Ofrande Zanzala came into the team. But this was followed by a disappointing home defeat to Doncaster Rovers, 1-0. So they ended the month with two draws against Wimbledon. Zanzala scored again at Leyton Orient. So they finished the month in 18th position, 1-1, drew 2, lost 1, 4-3 against 3. So I'm going to move quickly on to January. The month began with the announcement that Hayden Lindley, Thierry Nevers, Shanka Zimba all returned to their parent clubs. And then on the 5th of January, Matt Dolan joined Hartlepool, Robbie Wilmot joined Mike Flynn at Walsall. And then on the 17th of January, Harry Charsley signed from Port Vale, who'd previously worked with the manager at Mansfield. And then on the 27th of January, we signed Matt Baker on loan from Stoke. On the 31st of January, we announced the signings of Callum Kavanagh from Middlesbrough, Charlie McNeil from Manchester on loan. So I thought I'd get you off the pitch
United.
For Manchester United, sorry. Yeah, so on the pitch, we came back from 2-0 down to draw with Crawley to upset Dom Telford. Late goals was Dolan's was his final match, and Zanzala, another draw with Rochdale away, and a defeat to Carlisle. Newport finished the month in 18th place, taking 2 points from 9, 4-3 against 5. And the biggest thing that month that happened was Darren Kelly left the club for a role closer to home. So, Luke, quick observations about January?
I think January, the thing that sticks in my mind is something off the field, where it has an impact on the field. Obviously, the transfer window. I think Coughlin said he's spoken after the transfer window, saying bringing in Callum Kavanagh and Charlie McNeil has almost refreshed the forward line, because before then you had Zanzala, who was, I'm going to call him injury prone. He's had injuries. He's come back. He's got injured again. He's come back. You get the picture. So I think Callum Kavanagh and Charlie McNeil, having those two as an option, because then you could even play Will Evans there. There's 4 options. When he came in, he had 3, basically 2, because as I just said, Zanzala is likes to get injured quite often, unfortunately for him. When he has played, he has looked decent. So yeah, I think observation January is those 2 signings up top, which Coughlin said has refreshed the forward line. And coming towards the end of the season, we've seen arguably some of Omar Bogle's best work in a number of years, since he was last in League 2 at Grimsby when he got a £1 million transfer to Cardiff or whatever it was.
Yeah. I'll let you say quickly.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I'm not going to help, I got 2. Quickly. Darren Kelly go in, that was a real shocker because
Yeah.
obviously he was involved with the recruitment process for Graham.
Yeah.
And I just thought it's just going to carry on. It just seemed like a really, really, we had him in on the show, and it just seemed like a really, really clever way about going. Basically, got rid of all the sins of the past and just seemed a very fair way of getting new players in.
We have someone kind of in the down. It'll be interesting to speak to Graham and see how this works compared to.
Yeah, absolutely.
We now have someone called Chris Finn, who in January was in an advisory role. I don't know whether he was in the same role as what Darren Kelly was doing or what, I don't know. But now we have Chris Finn, who is head of football operations, which I think is very similar to sporting director. But it'll be interesting to see Graham and what the difference in roles is.
I'll probably talk about it a little bit later, but structurally I think there's a big difference. But does that make a difference? I'll go on to that a little bit later. The other bit was just the decency and the management skills of Graham Coughlin in handling the Matty Dolan situation.
Yeah.
What a classy way to basically wrap up what has been a great servant for Newport County. I really admire the way that was done.
Yeah, and it was great that he actually scored, didn't he, on his last performance as well. So, so moving swiftly on. So we're into February now. We began the month with a home win against Swindon, which is always good. Callum Kavanagh getting the winner. I think that was his first goal for the club. Newport were unbeaten in 5 games that month, won 3, drew 2, but they failed to go the whole month unbeaten when they suffered a home defeat to Sutton. Mickey Dimitru had a good month. He got 2 late winners against Barrow and Hartlepool away. So Newport ended the month in 18th position, taking 11 points from 18. 1-3, drew 2, lost 1, 4-7 against 6. So any quick thoughts? Emphasize the word quick.
Momentum, one word, momentum.
Yeah, I'll match his word, consolidation.
Yeah.
The damage was done. It's hard to get out of the situation that we were in, so we just consolidated, and we are where we are now.
Yeah, but I think like I said, we almost went the month unbeaten. We're getting really good away wins as well. It was really good to see Dimitri get those 2 late winners as well. So I'll move swiftly on to March. We're getting there. We're nearly there now. So the month began with a disappointing away defeat to Salford. We were then unbeaten for the rest of the month again. Drawing the next 3 games, winning against Tranmere away, which is a really good performance. Callum Kavanagh got his first goal. Charlie McNeil got another. Keeban Rye made his debut in the defeat to Salford his home debut as a substitute against AFC Wimbledon. Newport ended the month in 16th place, taking 6 points out of 15, 4-7 against 7, 1-1, drew 3, lost 1. And the big story that month was Gavin Foxall resigned due to ill health. Lamsey, I'll come to you first. What are your thoughts on that month?
Yeah, I kind of, been around the club and talking to, Gavin's been just the biggest supporter for us, Newport City Radio, at the club, and just really sad to see him go. I kind of, knew that things weren't quite right there. Obviously, it's personal things going on, so we don't want to bring that to broadcast.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it's probably the right thing that took place. But for me, again, in the same way as Ropes, quite a sad moment, really.
Can't really add much more to what you said. I think I said it on the podcast. To use his own words, he was a great custodian of the club, and he saw the club through a real successful time, especially COVID. Luke, quick thoughts on March and Gavin? Maybe?
Yeah, his running at the club is second to none, we've seen, especially over the last few years, clubs in real trouble due to ownership and things like that. I think he's been a steady figure at the club. Where do we go from here? That's what I want to talk about in a little bit. But other than that, March, Keban Rye, him making his debut, he's looked really impressive when you've seen him.
When he came on against Wimbledon, he did a couple of passes. I was like, wow, this kid is talented. Yeah.
Speaking of talent as well, Charlie McNeil getting his first goal up at Tranmere. We've seen, I think I spoke to you off air ages ago about, it might have been even on the last podcast against Crew. Technically, he's gifted. You can see that technically his runs, his when he leaves the ball for other players, some of his passing, he can play in the Premier League. I think it's just, it took him ages to get his first goal, and I think when he did get that first goal, I think you could see his confidence start to build. It was his first loan into the EFL after being in the youth setup for basically all of his life. So
you doing play-by-play already?
Yeah, no, yeah. We're talking about March, not Charlie McNeil, by the way.
We'll come on to it after. Go on.
Yeah. Right, we're into April now. We're on the home straight. The month began with Newport unbeaten in 4, and they made it 6 following a draw with Colchester and a 3-0 win at home against Northampton. Omar Bogle got 2 goals. But Newport were erratic for the rest of the month, where they won, across 7 matches in April. Omar Bogle had a really good month, scored 6 goals, including 2 goals in 2 out of 4 home matches. Newport finished the month in 14th place, taking 13 out of 24 points, 1-4, draw 1, loss 3, 4-13 against 11. I'm going to move quickly on to May because there's only one more game. Newport ended the season with a home draw against Crewe and finished the season in 15th place. So, yeah, just quick thoughts about April.
Talk about consistency with a win-loss.
It's the wrong sort of consistency, isn't it? Yeah.
Draw.
Yeah.
The last game of the season out to you, George, didn't it?
Just to throw up in the end, I got nothing more to add than that.
No,
apart from the fact of everything that could possibly happen on and off the field this season probably happened.
Yeah.
Kiban Ray's first start of we just spoke about him being really looked really talented when he's come on in his cameos, but he had his first start against Crewe on the last day of the season, and he impressed.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was, like I said, Omar Bogle, really strong end to the month.
He's coming to form at, you might argue, the wrong time as it's the end of the season.
But yeah, so there you go. There's your month-by-month review.
Right here, right now. Newport City Radio.
I tried to get up ahead of steam then accidentally, but it is time to look through the Newport County team for 2022-23 season.
You almost robbed yourself of your own glory there.
So
I'm here to help. I wasn't last podcast. I'm back to help.
We appreciate your help. We love your help. So we're going to start off as ever. Goalkeepers. It's the age-old question. Nick Townsend, Joe Day. We've seen Joe Day be preferred under Graham Cochran, but towards the end of the season, Nick Townsend has come in. Joe Day's kept 8 clean sheets in 28 games with a 62% save percentage. Stephen, I'm going to ask you the difficult question. Day or Townsend, what have you made of their season?
The big difference is the distribution. I think Townsend's better at distribution. Other than that, I would say there's hardly anything to choose between the two of them, to be honest.
Townsend's contract is up over the summer. We said on the last podcast, or you thought he would go.
Yeah.
Does that mean we'll be getting another goalkeeper over the summer?
I think we will, yeah.
A number 1? Or someone who can play reserves?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Lambsy, any thoughts on the goalkeeper situation?
Exactly what Stephen just said. He's got the jersey to take a Grahamism. And
who's that, Joe Day?
So no, Townsend was playing last, was he?
Yes.
Yeah. So
the end of the season goal.
So Townsend's in receipt of the jersey at the moment. Is that enough to make him stick around? I think it's a lot to ask to keep 2 quality League 2 goalkeepers happy. But if we can, we should.
Especially the 2 quality goalkeepers we have, because we've seen one plays poorly, one comes in, and you don't see a difference. That's how good they are. Anyway, moving on to the defenders, we've got centre-backs Matty Baker, who came in on loan from Stoke in January, James Clark, who worked under Cochran at Bristol Rovers and spoke so glowingly about him when he first took over, Declan Drysdale, who Stephen said is a really good sign and potentially a player to look out for at the start of the season, Priestley Farquharson, who his contract's up at the end of the season. We hope he stays. He's been one of the most improved players this season. He's come on leaps and bounds. Mickey Demetriou, 300 games up for the Crewe game. There's nothing more we can say about him. He's just an amazing player. 4 backs, Adam Lewis, on loan from Liverpool. He's been injured towards the end of the season. He's only played 21 games in the league, but he's got 5 goal involvements. He's out of contract in Liverpool in the summer, which is interesting. If I was Cochran, first thing I'd do after getting every player signed up who's out of contract with us in the summer is try and get Adam Lewis back. He has created our most big chances in the league with 7, joint most key passes per game, 3rd highest long balls per game, and he is the 2nd highest tackles per game. Aaron Lewis as well, who we know can play left wing back, right wing back, left back, right back. He's also ventured into midfield this season.
Well, it's fashionable these days to put your full backs into central midfield. We were doing it before Liverpool, by the way. Yeah.
Aaron Lewis is our most creative player this season, top at assist, and he's chipped in with a few goals. As you said, there was a really impressive one against Colchester in the FA Cup. And Cameron Norman, I think he's just an amazing player, Cameron Norman. I can't say enough of him voted player of the season and player of the season to be voted player of the season, I think is something special to be not seen by your peers as one of the best players this season. 5 goals, 5 assists, 4 goal involvements in his past 6 games, so he's ended the season on a strong note. I think, Stephen, you criticised him, I think, for not being as, not creative, but not having the stats to show his good work, because...
Yeah, I think we saw it towards the end of the season, but yeah, throughout the whole of the season, though.
He'd be getting in good positions.
Yeah,
but just...
I mean, what I liked about him is he was there ever-present. He played, I think, every game in the league.
46. I think last game of the season against Crewe was his 100th appearance for Newport County.
Yeah, his 100th appearance. And I think a lot of the play goes through him as well. A lot of the balls they favour the balls out towards him as well. But yeah, phenomenal player. Adam Lewis, I thought, it kind of grew into the team and started to have an impression, creating assists, got a goal. Fortunately, he got injured. Aaron Lewis, he's been unbelievable. Top assists, able to play in a number of different positions, which is brilliant. It's a good tool to have. I think.
His contract again up in the summer. He might be one that unfortunately moves on. James Clark as well in the section's contract's up as well. Yeah,
Dimitri, he's always 8 out of 10, and he popped up with a few important goals throughout the season as well. Farkson's just showed moments of real quality. So you'll see
most improved player this season.
Probably. Yeah, and I like Drysdale as well. I thought when he was in there, he showed real promise. Unfortunately, he picked up a couple of injuries throughout the season.
We've seen I think it was the Good Friday game. I can't remember who he played now. You might be able to remind me, where I think it was Clark came off very early on, or it was Matty Baker, and come back from an injury. It was his first game in about 2-3 months, and he might not have been up to fitness, he might not have been up to sharpness, but he came in and I think he was the absolute county man of the match that day. He was that good.
Yeah, he was.
And got him for one more season.
And even like Baker, who came in on loan, I thought he looked really good as well. Really good signing. Could go in midfield as well, which was good. So yeah, I think the defenders have done really well. Contributed 15 goals altogether this season. Farkson and Norman on 5. Second and third, I think, top scorers. So it's been a good season for the defence.
Ramsey, anything to add?
I think you two are covering it lovely. I'll just say that I think Priestley is my player of the season.
Oh, we'll come on to that in a little bit, hopefully. Yeah. Now, moving on to midfielders, another person who's out of contract is Scott Bennett, who's been at the club since 2016. Longevity is hard to get in football, but we've got, especially at League 2 level, we know about a consistent high turnover of players. Normally we see 6-7 go out, 6-7 come in, maybe a few more. He's been at the club since 2016, he's racked up over 200 games for Newport County. You don't really hear people singing the praises of Scott Bennett, so he's Priestley Farquharson, Cameron Norman, Omar Bogle, but he's the bedrock, he's the solid foundation that we need, that I think is being built upon. Howard Charsley, who I think we spoke about earlier, came in January from Port Vale. Yes, Port Vale. Cochrane said when the signing was announced, since he come in, he always wanted Charsley. If he could have signed him when he first got the deal to join Newport County, he would have. And we've seen him do both sides of the game. He's chipped in with goals, chipped in defensively, and I think he's one to look out for coming in next season. Sam Bowen is someone who I thought at the start of the season he was my ones to watch for the season. He's only played twice in 5 months of football, which is a bit disappointing. Yes, he's had personal things off the pitch which might have affected one or two things. Obviously, unfortunate situation with his dad, Jason Bowen, which we all know about. But I think next season, either send him out on loan to get some experience, or I think we could see him have a good pre-season. He has played twice towards the end of the season, but whether that's because it's the end of the season, he wants to give players a look in, I don't know. Nathan Mariah Welsh on loan from Bournemouth, his first season out on loan, got 3 goals this season, and like I was saying with Charles, he's done different roles in midfield. He's been creative on times, he's been box to box, he's been alongside Bennett as a more defensive mind in midfield, so I think he's been quite impressive for his first season out on loan. Aaron Wildig, He started off a little bit slow, 1 or 2 injuries, but towards the end of the season, he's been really, really key. It was a game a couple of weeks ago where he came on and completely changed the game. Like, we were 1-0 down, and he came on, scored a goal. He changed the game when he came on the 60th minute. James Waite, Stephen, you said he could be one to look out for in the season. He had a really impressive pre-season. He's been in and out of the team, I think, towards the beginning of Coughlin's era. He favoured him, and then he fell out of favour, and then he came back into favour towards the end of the season. Kiban Rai, as we mentioned, his first start on the last day of the season against Crewe, he looks really impressive.
Yeah.
Stephen, what are your thoughts on midfielders this season?
A lot of what Scott Bennett does go unnoticed, doesn't it? You know, he's that kind of cog in the wheel. He allows more creative players to...
And we've seen that in the past, like last season when we had Ollie Cooper, Finn Azaz, Jake Kane. Look at the creativity they were allowed to possess because they knew that they had the solidity of Scott Bennett behind them.
Yeah, I think Charlesley, since he's come in, I think he's looked really good. He's really good going forward, but he's good defensively as well. He's got a goal or two. Mariah Welsh has had a brilliant season. I'll come back to him later on in the show. Yeah, Wildig, I think he ended the season strong. I think we finally started to see what he's about, but fortunately he spent most of the season, a lot of the season injured and kind of coming back from injury and in and out of the team. But once he was towards the end of the season, he started to show the quality he's got. James Waite, like I said, started the season really well, started to get goals, assists, kind of dropped off a bit. That's probably because he was in and out of the team. I think Coughlin probably likes him for his tenacity and likes to play him like in behind the strikers, which I think is probably his best position. Sam Bowen, what a disappointment. Yeah, we have not seen him through probably no fault of his own. But yeah, Coughlin obviously doesn't fancy him. So what to do with him I'm not sure. But but overall, I think midfield, 13 goals this season. Wildig top scorer with 4, as I said, probably Would you like some more goals from your midfielders? Because we've seen last season Finn Azaz, Ollie Cooper chipped in with quite a few goals. Well, last season it was 14 goals from the midfield with Azaz on 7, so it's only a 1 goal difference. But so moving on. Oh, sorry, Lambs. Any thoughts on midfield? Only just to add to your brilliant analysis of Scott Bennett. There's an analogy stolen from football called a solid midfielder in radio, and every radio station needs a good, solid presenter that can just get in there and get the job done. And they're not a breakfast show presenter, they're not a drive time presenter, they're just somebody that can get radio done. Scott Bennett, in a nutshell, he just gets it done. Anyway, moving on. Excuse me, you're pointing at me. I'm a flashy breakfast show presenter, thank you. It's our Stephen then. Anyway, moving on to the forwards quickly. Will Evans, who at the start of the season came in from Bala. You, Stephen, said he was your ones to watch and you thought he could have a really impressive season. He's been Mr. Versatile. We've had a few versatile players. He's had an impact, but not quite in the way I was imagining. No. But I'll take that, man. Yeah, I think his versatility started to really good option at attacking left back when he starts off as a striker, as we mentioned. Yeah. Options were limited, so it was him and Bogle up top. He works and works and works. Yeah, for the first season in the Football League, I think he's done really well. We've even seen him try his hand in broadcasting as well the other week. Yeah, we did. Omar Bogle, top scorer, 17 goals in League 2, 8 goals to assists in the past 8 games. Like I said, I don't think he wanted the season to finish. I said that to Graham Coughlin himself, and he agreed. Charlie McNeil initially struggled. When he first came in, he was in and out of the team. It was him and Callum Kavanagh who will come into a little bit, and like I said, since he scored against Tranmere his first goal, yes, technically he'd been there, but whether it was confidence, whether it be him trying to adapt to the league, when he got that first goal against Tranmere, it was almost a different Charlie McNeil. Technically he's amazing, but it's just that goal. I think we know that sometimes with strikers, when they score one, they start to come, and I think you've seen that with him. Our friend Zanzala, unfortunately he has been injured. Newport County, however, it's the first time he spent more than a year at a club. Obviously, he's contracted to next season. First time he spent more than a year at club since 2020. So hopefully, that was at Crewe. So hopefully, he can settle in the area, and hopefully, we see more out of him next season. On loan from Middlesbrough, it's a second loan in the EFL. He was at Harrogate last season, scoring 1 goal.
He scored 2 this season. He's doubled his goal tally. Often switched with Charlie McNeil, who's either McNeil or Kavanagh, or both, as Graham Cochran went with up at Stockport. But, yeah. Same with Dale Townsend. If you start either or, I think you're still going to get players of equal quality. Stephen, forward line. Actually, no, we'll go and throw it to Lambsy as he looks through his notes. Thoughts on the forward line this season?
Yeah, it's just football fans. What can you do with them? You know, the relationship with Bogle this year has been really, really interesting.
It's like a roller coaster.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just been fascinating to watch, and I'm glad he came good at the end.
I think he's even spoken about that himself in press conferences or whatever. But anyway, Stephen, forward line, we spoke about Will Evans then and his impact this season. But
I think great for Bogle to get 19 goals this season. Yeah, started the season well, ended the season well, dipped in the middle. So I want to see it all throughout the season. Zanzala, too much time injured. McNeil and Kavanagh, brilliant potential. I think they made Bogle better. And the less said about Chan Kazimba and Thierry Nevers, the better, really.
I didn't include them in my list because I didn't think it would be relevant anyway. Thierry Nevers actually could still get promoted this season.
Wasn't he going to be the new Thierry Henry? I remember us somebody saying on a podcast. Yeah, that aged well.
I think I stole your line that day.
I'll teach you.
Right here. Right here. Right now. Right now. Newport City Radio.
Right, you two monkeys, you've been talking for so long. As enjoyable it is, I'm going to make an executive decision. We need a part 2.
Okay.
So I know that you both want to have your talking points, but we're going to be here till 10 o'clock tonight. So executive decision, if that's all right.
Yep.
Let's split the end of season into 2 parts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think we do need to give 7 minutes of quality time to Mr. Chris Chappell.
Well, for me, the tale of last year was a season of promise with a disappointing ending, whereas this season was more of a season of disappointment with a climax of real promise. If we look back to the end of the previous campaign, which I think you have to put this season into context, after beating Bristol Rovers 1-0 in early March, that put County up in 3rd place. But after that, it was just all downhill from there. So 5 home defeats in a row, and that led in that home form in particular, carried on into this season. So you had the first 7 games of the campaign, you had a further 5 defeats with just 1 win over Tranmere and a draw against Carlisle. So all in all, you had 12 home games in a row there from the end of last season. Just 1 win, 1 draw, 10 defeats. And I think that, cost James Rowberry dear. I mean, the vast majority of fans will just not accept coming to watch defeat after defeat, regardless of how well the away form is getting on. Because, there's only a couple of hundred that see that week in, week out. So you've got to get it right at home if you're going to sort of keep yourself in a job. The summer signings, I think, just never were up to scratch. I think he lost Dom Telford and Courtney Baker-Richardson, of course. And on paper, Omar Bogle and Ofrande Zanzala, pretty decent pair to come in as replacements. But it was mainly in that midfield area where, the Azaz, Cooper, Kane from last year, you cannot, they're not in the same bracket when you consider who came in. Thierry Nevers, Hayden Lindley. I mean, Sam Bowen was very underwhelming as well as a permanent signing. Chan Kazimba just wasn't really up to the task as a sort of fill-in striker. I know Zanzala, he was blighted by Zanzala being injured. And when we did see him, he only played 17 games all season. He looks promising. He looks like a good player to have in attack. He's got experience scoring goals at this level for other clubs. So hopefully next season we'll see the best of Zanzala. In Rowberry's defence, he did bring in some good players. Mentioned Bogle, Adam Lewis, of course, from Liverpool. He looked a bit lost early on, but came strong as the season went on, and he provided quite a few assists down that left side. So it's just, he got injured towards the end of the campaign as well. Generally, talking to Bogle, Rowberry was decent with strikers because remember, Michael Flynn didn't really play Telford or Baker Richardson for various reasons at the start of the 21-22 season. And it was only Wayne Hatswell who basically gave Telford a run in the side and got him going, and Rowbury carried that on. And, that prolific run of goals for Dom Telford. Perhaps for the first and only time in his career, he's been, a really top-level goal-scoring machine. He had a Zaz and Cooper buzzing around him. So I think in terms of the structure of the side, I know we criticised the sort of box midfield with a lack of width the end of last season, but he knew how to sort of get goals out of his strikers. And with Bogle, the 14 games that Rowbury had for this past season, he scored 7 goals. So, a goal every other game, that's what you want from your main striker. So obviously when Graham Coughlan came in, he had to make County hard to beat. And he did that. The defeats dried up. There were a lot of draws. But and I think the way that he just toughened up the team and just tightened them up, that was a sort of negative for Bogle, because those first 18 games that Coughlan was in charge, he only scored 1 in that time. And he was behind Zanzala when he was fit and he was coming off the bench. But I think as the season came to a close, Bogle finally found his place in that team and scored 8 goals in the last 8 games. So that's a really positive thing. Remember Michael Flynn, talking of goal scorers, the playoff final, the second of the 2 playoff final seasons, the one against Morecambe, his top scorer in the league, he had 2 players with 6 goals and neither of them were forwards. So, Flynn, he had that great season with Jamil Matt and Padraig Amand scoring loads of goals. But other than that, that was an exception really, because he never really stuck with strikers to give them a good run in the team and get them in a groove. I think he chopped and changed a bit too much for those scorers to, find their feet in the team. So Coughlan, he had no option really than to stick with Bogle, because obviously Zanzala was injured. And as I said, he's found that sweet spot where he's scoring goals great into the season. He's under contract for the new campaign. If Zanzala's fit, if they can get someone else in as well, that bodes well. So the last 13 games of the season, 5 wins, 5 draws, just 3 defeats, 20 points, and that's just over 1.5 per game. And multiplied out over the course of a 46-game season, that's 70 points, which would have put Newport County in 9th place in the table, just outside the playoffs. So if you think Coughlan, if he can sort of use his contacts, he's got a bit more experience in the game as a manager coach, playing as well at a good level, so he'll know sort of figures in other clubs' academies, and I think he'll have a bit more nous in the transfer market than James Rowbury, and that should strengthen the squad to the point where you could conceivably see Newport County back in a sort of playoff chasing position. But obviously with the budget, finances, question mark over those for the new season, it's going to be tough to attract decent additions. But Harry Charsley came in, he's looked good. Some quality and some fortune with injuries. Then there's no reason why County can't be in the top half, pushing for a playoff place in the new season, 2023-24. So for me, positive end, and onwards and upwards under a coach who knows how to set up a team to be defensively sound. But it's who he can get in defence, because that experience at the back could be lost if new contracts are turned down.
What a perfect way to wrap up part 1 of what will now be a 2-part end-of-season review. Easy for me to say. Okay, thank you for taking time out to listen today. As always, we'd love to read your thoughts about our thoughts on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram via direct message. We're also on email, studio@newportcityradio.org. We will catch you on Thursday, the 25th of May at 3 p.m. as we continue to look back in amber at the 2022-23 season. More talking points, more banter, and more top-class analysis.
Right here. Right here. Right now. Right now. Newport City Radio.